Hi, everyone. Professor Graham here. I wanted to shed some light on the compare contrast format and how to kind of think about structuring your essay and review what is here in the compare contrast module. This is the lecture and lesson from module 4. Excuse me. So I'm just going to kind of run down this page by page and then go over some of the main points. In truth, one of your classmates sent me a couple questions, and I thought it would be helpful to just share it with everyone. So as you can see, I've opened up the first page of module 4, and it looks here, looking here, you'll see your learning objectives for this module are to use a comparison and contrast to make a point. So notice how similarities or differences to make a point. Select meaningful basis of comparison or contrast to provide sufficient evidence to support comparison or contrast analysis. And when we say evidence, that means examples, right? Distinguish between point by point and block organization. There are two ways to organize a compare and contrast essay. Formulate an overall thesis that states an overall perspective for a comparison or contrast essay. And then to construct a writing plan that contains the developed thesis statement and related points that show the point by point or block by block organization. Hopefully you did that with the homework assignment. So first, hopefully you watched the lecture, and I know most of you did complete the essay quiz. Then you have your discussion forum this week. Remember, when we say summary and response, hopefully you guys remember that a summary is nothing without the title, the author or director, if it's depending on the media, the date and how that is significant today. How does it compare or follow through? These you guys should be in the habit of including, and that we practiced in the first couple modules. That's going to be true in every single module. That will never change. You guys have the Dweck mindset, changing our mindset, the Dweck comparison between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Over here, you have points of comparison. So this actually is a T-bar chart similar to what I would look for in the homework assignment that you guys did. So notice here how this has the author or authority. In this case, Dr. Dweck has written several books. She's a speaker, and she actually developed this concept of fixed mindset, growth mindset. She is a well-renowned Stanford University psychologist, and she, as I said, kind of defined those two terms. So you can read a little bit more about it. But notice how it leads with an introduction right here of the authority, and states her full name. So then you have an actual T-bar chart. So these are points of comparison. You have the two mindsets. So notice their mindsets. So that's something similar that they have in common. These are two, when you're conceptualizing a compare contrast essay, you have two things that are either similar inherently or very different inherently. And then if they are inherently similar, or so you have two mindsets here that are being compared and contrasted. These are the points that they're being compared right? And so because they're both defined here underneath the title, and then how the fixed mindset operates on desire. They what do they desire? They want to look smart. They want to prove themselves over and over again as smart, and they never fail. Whereas a growth mindset, their desire is to stretch themselves, to take risks, and to learn and to bring on the challenges, right? And I'm not going to do this in this lecture for everyone, but that's what a point-to-point comparison and contrast essay is going to do. This is what I wanted from you guys in the homework assignment, where you're comparing two different approaches to mindfulness. One is psychology, one is neuroscience, and the other is Zen meditation. So if you have two authorities, then you would give the background information on two authorities up here, and then have the list of points that you're comparing them on, and then fill in each box. So that's what the T-bar chart should look like. And your homework assignment should look something like this, although more developed than just that. There would be actual examples, quotations, and so on. So anyway, next page, you have your lecture and lesson. Hopefully you watch this lecture. You are actually clicking on these links. So down here you have an example of a compare and contrast outline, more or less. So first you're given a thesis statement, which is going to be an argument. In this case, this is a compare and contrast of city life and country life. So the thesis statement here says, while city life brings many social opportunities, country life can provide the best of both worlds. So notice how we have two subjects. They are both life and life, right? A way of a lifestyle. So those are our two things that are being compared and contrasted. And this argument thesis statement, right? So your thesis statement will have an argument, which is you have two different things, sometimes three, four, whatever. And you're ultimately arguing that one is better than the other in some shape or form, right? So in this case, the points of comparison are restaurants, cultural diversity, and things to do, entertainment. So you have cities. This is AAA, So if city was A, country is B. That's what we mean by AABBB. And this is subject by subject. So you have, notice how these would be topic sentences. And so this would be, and then each bullet represents a paragraph. So the first body paragraph would be cities and restaurants. The next body paragraph would be city life and the cultural diversity and the benefits of that. And then the entertainment opportunities. Notice here, then we have three body paragraphs focusing on country life. Country life brings fresh produce within easy reach. Obviously, you can grow your own food. Country life is quiet, but you can travel and get cultural exposure there. So it's optional. And lastly, entertainment opportunities exist as well. So they don't say what that is clearly, but maybe festivals, parties, dinner clubs, social clubs, things like that. Rodeos, you know what I mean, sporting events, things such as that, whatever would occur. So this is A, B, B, B. And notice here, so see what I'm saying? Cities, city restaurants, country life, fresh produce. So obviously food source, country life, travel or cultural exposure. So notice class, this is not a list of summary, similar things and different things, not at all. This is where that's in the preliminary organization as you're developing your own thesis statement. So then there's the AB, AB, AB pattern here, where literally these are the same sentences, you guys, but you keep it, in my opinion, this is easier to write in the AB pattern. So again, remember these bullet points represent that these are topic sentences. So here, same thing. Cities have lots of great restaurants, and then the whole paragraph would be about restaurants in the city. And then the next paragraph, here's your transitional phrase. On the other hand, signifying different, right? Country life, there's your subject, brings fresh produce within easy reach. So, and then the next set of paragraphs. So this is A, B, A, B, A, B, and so on. And then here's an example of a transition statement that would be at the end of a paragraph. And so again, I know I've said this a bunch of times, but to help with any confusion, clicking on these links is what they're there for a reason. So notice here, now we have a chart. This is your T-bar chart. Now imagine there's a T right here. T, and it divides your two subjects and your topics of comparison, points of comparison, examples, or support. So again, this will help you with your thesis statement. And this whole excerpt here will help you write your essay and build that essay. So go through that. I don't want to put you to sleep by reading this. So then you have your compare contrast homework assignment. After completing that lecture, you should watch each of these lectures, right? TED Talks or lectures. We got to stop calling them videos. You should know the title, the date, the publisher, and a background on each authority. That means do a little Google research so you can insert that there. Read what's on the, information provided on YouTube. But note, that both of these are on mindfulness. He's a neuroscientist, she's a nun, or a Buddhist nun or monk. I'm not sure what. But the point is, they're both talking about the same thing, but from different perspectives. You have two authorities. That's what we say when we take notes. Write down the main ideas as you're taking notes and hit pause when they're saying something you think would is a good illustration that illustrates that main idea. That is how you build your paragraphs. And when we say point to point, that is A, B, A, B, A, B. So if you're comparing two restaurants, they're obviously inherently similar because they're restaurants. But let's say so first you have to decide what are you going to compare them about, what are your points of comparison? So maybe their location, prices, and the menu and service. There you have 4 points of comparison. And then first obviously you would write down the name of each one, the owner, maybe the background, how long have they existed? And then in your T-bar chart, location, is it easy to get to? Is it far away? You know, load up that square that you've dedicated for that paragraph. And do that for this assignment, for every, this is practice for that. So you see what I'm saying? Or if you're comparing cars, say you want to buy a Mercedes and you want to get a Mercedes SUV. Well, right there, there are 3 or 4 different kinds of Mercedes SUVs. They're Mercedes SUVs. That's what they have in common. But what makes them different? Right? Those are your points of comparison. And that's what we say or what we mean when we say compare and contrast. And then you want to pick, are they more, which one is the best Mercedes? So your points of comparison are clear, and ultimately you want the electric one, or the larger one for the size of the family, or the smallest one because it has the best gas mile, So see what I'm saying? There's you'll find your argument while your thesis, right? You'll decide are these more equally powerful, but one is easier to do than the other. One takes more, see what I'm saying? But here I'm telling you, they're very similar. So you want to actually write down all the similarities, but then what makes them different? So I'm telling you to emphasize the differences between the lectures after selecting all the similarities. So you have your T-bar chart with your 2 speakers, your points of comparison over on the side, like in that Dweck chart, and make a list of those points of comparison, fill in the squares. There should be examples, which would mean in this class, quotes, direct quotes that are time stamped. You can put those in the square too. And that's what I was looking for, right? Is a clear understanding of how to build that T-bar chart. And if you can't fashion a T-bar chart, then points, bullet points is fine. Whatever you need to do to make it clear. All right, and then here's the grading criteria for that. This is what you're kind of what I am looking for an A level. So always make sure to go through that before you submit work or get it started. Now, again, here's that Dweck mindset that I'm asking you guys to consider and compare and contrast. You have these, and then of course to consider hopefully your own approach. Examine your own approach using the language of the fixed and growth mindset that is discussed here in her lecture. Now remember, class, and I haven't read your original post yet, but I do want to emphasize that I want this to be from a student's point of view. This is, if she says to teach kids or we need to teach students, I want you to perceive this through the eyes of a student, not as an educator, right? So I hope that's clear. If you want to revise your posts to make sure that it is focusing from a student's perspective. Her lecture is for other educators, but I'm sharing it with you. So here you have, and then here are some good examples to look at. Okay, so hopefully that's something that you guys are still working on. If I don't know, the due dates are coming up. Now you do have an essay, and I'd like to go over this a little bit with you. You have an essay to write. It is due, what is the due date? Oh, it's due tomorrow. Okay, so first of all, make very sure you read some of the, you read each one of these a couple times to help you brainstorm some ideas for your essays. This is a documentary. Make sure you include some background information on Jane Elliott, and remember that she did a lot more than just this started when she was a teacher, but she went on to do other things. And this is a very well-known experiment that she presented. So it went on and on. So definitely watch that, write down notes, hit pause, write down quotations. Now, one thing that students really, if they get it wrong, it's usually in the retelling of this documentary. You are not retelling this documentary. This is not a summary of this documentary. The summary details, such as it will most likely be included in the background information and introduction paragraph. And then the rest will be concepts put forth, or that you want to discuss about the while you compare or contrast the students and the correction officers. Okay, this is a similar experiment on two groups of people. So you're comparing and contrasting the effects of the experiment on the children and the correction officers. And keep in mind that at the beginning of this documentary, the children are grown up and they return to discuss the long-term effects of this experiment on their lives. So that's something to include if you wish. I just want to put that out there. That is something that can be discussed. So you have several ideas to consider and brainstorming questions to look through. Definitely remember to look through the grading rubric, and then in the files section, you will find there's compare and contrast student examples here. There's at least 3. I feel like there might be another one, maybe not. So definitely check out those student examples for inspiration, and definitely on the format. Lastly, for those of you who struggled with paragraph and essay format, remember there's a template here that you can follow. There's a lecture that reviews that pattern or format, and then there's an actual documentary. Oh, I can't open it while I'm on Zoom, but you can. And that should definitely be something you're looking at before, during, and after writing. So in your compare contrast, one last thing about the compare contrast essay, just as a, again, check out those student examples. They're there for a reason. But the children, think of in an A-B essay, that's 6 body paragraphs and then an intro and conclusion to make 8 paragraphs. So there would be 3 points of comparison. You could almost do you could do this in many different ways. There are a lot of options. So I'm not going to over instruct on that. I'd like you to give this your full effort. But the children would be A and the correction officers are B. So you could go A. So the first paragraph could be the children, and then the second paragraph would be, I'm just going to make something up here for the sake of the lecture, but let's say that the children, what they ate for lunch, how they, what time they left it at the end of the day. I'm totally making this up, but just say these are your points of comparison. So the first paragraph or the first body paragraph would be the children and what they ate for lunch and how they treated each other at the meal and so on. And then the next paragraph would be what the correction officers ate for lunch and how they treated each other at the table. Right? You see what I'm saying? So you're kind of, there should not, so let me give you a list of do nots. Do not put both children and correction officers in one paragraph. So you're going to have faulty paragraph structure if you have the word both. Unless the word although, like although both ate lunch at the same time, comma, the children, in fact, or I don't know, I'm trying to do this off the cuff. But the point is the paragraph should focus on just the children. And then the next paragraph would focus just on the correction officers. They should not be blended. The way to get it wrong, class, is to find yourself writing both the correction officers and the children ate lunch. And then you put all that in one paragraph. That's not what we're doing here. It's children and their lunch, correction officers and their lunch, different paragraphs. Your essay will not have lunch in it. I'm just using that for the lecture. But hopefully you understand and you see that illustrated clearly in the student example essays. This is requiring an attempt at a works cited page. So check out the student example works cited page. That'll be at the end of the essay. And we'll go over that a little bit more down the road, but I'll show it to you right now. Oh, sorry, here, let's go to the files section and open up one of those examples. And I'll tell you, okay, so this, I had to enter their name. That's why it looks like a weird font. It just was processed that way. It has to do with accessibility. So pretend that's just Times New Roman 12-point font. And these would be single spaced. That's how the MLA format would look. Just again, forgive me, this font is wonky and there's extra spaces here, but that's the information that you would have in the MLA heading, last name and page number up in the upper right hand corner. Let me show you. Oh shoot. When you're doing this in Word, click on headings and you should be able to enter that in there. Okay, so then we have the title here is stating clearly that they're going to compare discrimination in the children versus correction officers. It does not say compare and contrast essay. It is not the title of the documentary. It says what the subject is, the two subjects, and the argument is that they're similar. Then we have background information. The thesis statement is highlighted. And then here you have one sentence that brings us to kind of what they're going to talk about. And then notice here, so it says one of the first similar points identifiable in the group of children and correction officers in the documentary title was displays of anger. And then this whole paragraph is children. An example of that, and they're using background other resources. They looked up an outside resource, and they included, see how they included that it's introduced, then there's the quote, then they have the resource followed by this quote says, right? So this whole paragraph pattern follows what is available in that page that I showed you in the syllabus. So anyways, this whole paragraph is about the children, and then we have a final sentence that transitions into the next paragraph, which is about the correctional officers. And then notice the topic sentence and the whole background information or definition sentence, example. Notice here, they don't use an example. They use a part of the experiment. So they don't have a direct quote. They just discuss the outcome of an element of it. So you can do that also, but they should have a timestamp of where this thing occurred, this example that they're citing. So notice, and then we go to the second parallel point, and this is a little awkward, but it works, doesn't it? And this whole sentence keeps the reader tuned into the thesis statement. And then here's the first, so this is our next set of A, B. So this is our next body paragraph, next point of comparison, their feelings, the example, the timestamp, see? And then it goes on. So the pattern is A, B, A, B, A, B. I really want you guys to read these and let them be a visual learning tool. Okay, and then I'm just going to show you again where you can find the, because it's pretty important. Is crazy. It's right here in the syllabus. It's this essay template. And I've pointed it out in the welcome video, and I've pointed it out in other areas. So please do not overlook this. If you have been doing so, watch this lecture. It's about 30 minutes long. Look at this outline. It will really help. And I think you'll feel more successful. So hopefully that helps as you, in addition to everything else that's there. I look forward to reading your essays and your discussion post, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, you guys.